With the Race for Glory, this is your second time playing an iconic racing, figure in racing history. What do you think it is about racing movies that is so compelling and resonates with audiences?
Well, if it's well done, like in this case, and also in the case of Rush, it translates the thrill of that, fascinating, dangerous, passionate sport to the screen. If the cinematic translation works out, then you delve into something that is thrilling, that is fast and crazy when you think about it. Also, the determination. I mean, everything that's behind the actual sport is like these freaks who dedicate their life to that, and are competing so feverishly and are so obsessed by something. This is always fascinating, I guess, to see people who are so incredibly obsessed by something. So that captured me in two times. That I said yes, and my first instinct was actually no. I said to Riccardo, "I've done my bit. I've played an iconic driver. I don't want to do another race film." Just because he's a friend, and he's a very persistent friend, he said, no, it's not the driver, don't worry, it's the Audi Lancia, it's a small part, but because we're always making fun of each other for years now, he said, this is a nice opportunity to bring that to another level, and then make fun of us, Italians versus Germans, and so there was also a lot of humor in the script, what I liked, and so I said yes.
I was very glad you said yes. This movie is very great. Something I was thinking about looking at, the films that you've done. You have voiced a car. You've obviously been Niki Lauda. Now you've been Roland Gumpert. Do you have like a personal connection at all with racing? Did you watch, Rally World or F1 growing up, or has it just purely been that your career has kind of navigated you in that direction?
Yeah, I was into it, but not too much. Like my brother was a much bigger Formula One fan. He infected me a bit with that virus. I always loved cars. I loved old cars, and I still have one, an old convertible Peugeot from 1973. That never works, but I cannot sell it because I'm so attached to it. So I always liked old cars, and then with also with rally, I remember. I had flashbacks from my childhood in Spain. Some of my uncles and cousins were into that. So I remember sitting on a couch and watching these races and thinking as a child, why are the people standing so close next to the race car? I mean, this is insane. This is so dangerous. But it fascinated me. So it was a nostalgic ride for me to do this film. And it's something else that I love about the film, how they did it tonally. I mean, the texture, the colors, the costumes, the soundtrack and the music, it all brings you back to the 80s. So I was 5 back then in 83. So it somehow, there were some moments watching the film also that I thought like, this reminds me of my childhood. And no, it was nothing that I was actively looking for. It just came to me. And the previous interview, I was thinking of one of my favorite scenes that I ever shot. It's in a small German art house film called A Friend of Mine, where there's one scene where me and a friend are both naked in a Porsche. And we were driving on a blocked stretch of the Autobahn, so we could really go for it. And I remember that the cameras were hidden behind us, with black cloth, so you couldn't see anything. You just saw 2 naked guys in a Porsche, and we turned around in a gas station where there were some kids who saw us, and it was not, so they didn't see a film crew or anything. They saw like, what the hell is going on? 2 guys driving onto the gas station naked in a Porsche. So that was one of the most memorable scenes in my professional life. And yeah, cars have always been a part of it for some reason. But also clearly Rush, it just came to me, and I was not. It wasn't my dream to play a figure in that kind of world. No.
I do want to touch on Rush because I love that movie so much, and I love that you've reunited with Ron Howard on Eden. What has it been like working with him again 10 years later?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's just the same. It was like it was yesterday. And I mean, loyalty in our world and our profession is something that is rare, you know. So I remember shooting Rush. One day he said, like, oh, hey, Daniel, there's I really enjoy working with you. And there's a fascinating story about some guys in the Galapagos Islands. And I want to do that with you one day. And so I thought, like, yeah, well, Ron is the nicest guy, but will that ever happen? I mean, I don't think so. And now 10 years later, I was shooting Karl Lagerfeld in Paris when I got a call from him. Hi, this is Ron. I'm in Paris. Can I visit you on set? And so it's also so sweet that he's curious in what I'm doing. And can I come to set? The French team, they were so nervous that Ron was showing up that nothing worked on that day, you know? So I think that it was a complete disaster. But there he was, polite and you know, generous and kind as he was with his base cap. And at the end of the day, he said, like, oh, do you remember that Galapagos project? I'm doing it. Would you be so kind to read the script? And I said, Ron, man, you are just you're wonderful. And now we're here with an incredible cast. Felix being one of them. I just had some couple of scenes with Jude Law this week. He's an incredible actor, and man, he's so passionate and his energy is so contagious. It's wonderful working with him. It's my first time that I have the pleasure to be working with him. It's an absolute blast. And so it is with Vanessa, with Ana de Armas, Sydney Sweeney. I mean, it's a stellar cast. Tony Wallace. So I'm really having a great time. And Ron hasn't changed a bit. He's still the same.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you know, over the last 10 years, what has changed for you as an actor that you were like excited to bring to this project? Like, where have you like matured in your career and found new things that you've been able to bring to this film?
It's becoming more and more interesting for me personally as an actor, I have to say. Becoming older, the parts are becoming more interesting. This is sometimes I had a very good kickoff when I was young, but then I always looked younger than I actually was. So there was a stretch of a couple of years in my late 20s. Then I thought, like, I still get these scripts where I have to play someone who has the problems of a 19-year-old, but I'm 29. So playing a coming of age, you know, so I was a bit frustrated by that. And now I think it's becoming better and better, more complex, and the parts are more mature, and you know, it's different stakes, different dilemmas, different conflicts that you're allowed to, you know, portray. It's more faceted and more intense. Also, you know, playing Lagerfeld was such an interesting ride this year. I always love when you feel slightly out of your comfort zone. When in the minute you say yes to something, you go like, oh shit, how am I going to do this? You know, this is what gives you the kick, you know. Yeah, I hope that it stays like that. I hope that Ron, along the process, says, hey, Daniel, in 10 years from now, we should do this and that. I mean, I cannot think of a project now that Robert, but so I'm happy that I started when I was 15 or 16, the fact that I'm still here, that we are still talking, which means that apparently there's something to talk about, that I'm still doing films and I'm working is already wonderful, because it's tough and it's difficult to stay in the game. So you can always say, you know, knock on wood, that it stays like that.
Definitely. And as we wrap up, I did want to ask about another one of your projects. We just saw the first footage for the franchise last week, which I'm very excited for. I love the plot of that. I've worked on superhero movies, so like that plot is very like right up my alley.
Oh, I mean, I honestly, and the English and Americans, because that's what we don't have in Germany. We are not really funny. Some of the guys who think they're funny are not funny. I mean, it was never my cup of tea. So I always bow my head. Even the Austrians, Felix is funny. I mean, the Austrians are funny, but so I was always trying to get a foot in a top comedy, but it's very difficult for a German. And also, I said a trillion times to Sam Mendes, thanks for choosing a German, because I'm the only one who's not English or American. He was looking for a director, could be from anywhere. And so when he said yes, eventually, I said, oh my God, thank you. And Sam said, you're very funny for being a German. And so when we shot the pilot, we had so much fun. It's a dangerous one, though. It's one of those where you have to be careful to not crack up whilst you're doing it. There's some of these actors that, oh God, I suffered so much with Richard E. Grant, with Billy Magnuson, because just by looking at them and Himesh, they crack me up. And it's the hilarious writing and the quality of, Sam Mendes, Iannucci, and John Brown from Succession. I mean, these three guys together, the perfection of the sense of humor, of the punchlines, of the timing is, to me, is an absolute gift. And as you said, I also have had my experiences in that universe. So it's just it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I'm very excited for that one. I wanted to thank you again for chatting with me about this. I'm very excited for Race for Glory and what people will say about it.
Pleasure.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.